Chess is a really old and popular board game. People have loved playing it for hundreds of years. It started a long time ago in India, then went to Persia and Europe. The game we play today really got going in Europe about 600 years ago. That's when the queen became a super strong piece, just like real queens were becoming more powerful in Europe back then. And when printing was invented about 500 years ago, even more people started playing. Chess is fun because it makes you think about strategy, tactics, and how to outsmart your opponent. It's not about luck like some games. It's all about skill and planning. The rules are simple, but the game can get really tricky. There's always something new to learn, no matter how long you play. Chess is played all over the world by all sorts of people. It teaches you good things like being patient, making plans, and thinking carefully. Whether you play just for fun or want to be a champion, chess is great for everyone, young and old. Before you become a chess master, you need to know the battlefield, the chessboard. It's a square with 64 smaller squares, light and dark, one after the other. A normal chessboard used in competitions is about 20 inches wide. When you set up the board, remember white on the right. This makes sure everyone plays the same way and nobody gets confused. To find your way around the chessboard, you need to know how the squares are named. The rows going across are called ranks, and the rows going up and down are called files. Ranks are numbered 1 to 8, starting from white's side. Files are lettered A to H, starting from white's left side. Knowing this is really important for writing down moves and figuring out what's happening in the game. Now that the board is ready, let's set up the pieces. Each player gets 16 pieces: 1 king, 1 queen, 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 bishops, and 8 pawns. The pawns go on the second rank like a little army. Behind them go the bigger pieces. The queen always goes on her own color, and the king goes on the other square. This way both players start the game equally. Pawns might look small, but they're important. They protect the other pieces and can be good for attacking and defending. Pawns move forward but capture diagonally. They usually move 1 square at a time, but on their first move they can move 2 squares. When they capture, they move 1 square diagonally. Pawns can't go backwards, so they always have to keep moving forward. How the pawns are arranged can open up the board, block other pieces, or make a defensive wall. If a pawn makes it all the way to the other side of the board, it gets promoted to another piece, which can change the whole game. Rooks and bishops are your big guns. Rooks move in straight lines, across or up and down. Bishops move diagonally, but only on squares of the same color. Rooks are strong on open files, and bishops are good at controlling diagonals. Both are useful in the middle part of the game, controlling things from far away. To use them well, you need to know what they're good at, what they're not so good at, and how to move them together. A rook or 2 bishops in the right place can control lots of squares and launch big attacks. Knights move in a special L shape. They move 2 squares in one direction, then 1 square to the side. Knights can jump over other pieces, which is helpful when the board is crowded. They're good at surprise attacks and controlling important squares, but because they move in short jumps, they're a bit slow. Knights aren't so good in open positions where it's easy to see them coming. To use knights well, you need to use their special move to trick your opponent. The king and queen are the most important pieces. The king can only move 1 square at a time in any direction, which makes him a bit weak. The queen can move any number of squares in a straight line, making her very strong. The king is the most important piece to protect, and the queen helps protect him and win the game. Knowing their strengths and weaknesses is really important in chess. Keeping your king safe and using your queen well are key skills. The king and queen work together to try and win. In chess, you and your opponent take turns, and white always goes first. On your turn, you move one piece, except for a special move called castling. You can move to an empty square or capture your opponent's piece. Capturing makes your opponent weaker and gives you control of more squares. Every move needs careful thought. Learning to think a few moves ahead and understanding the risks and rewards is really important. The goal in chess is to checkmate your opponent's king. A check happens when the king is under attack. Checkmate happens when the king is under attack and can't escape. Checkmate means the game is over and you win. Every piece has a job to do, either attacking the other king or defending your own. To be good at checkmate, you need to understand how it works and plan your moves to make it happen. Chess has a few special moves that make it even more interesting. These moves are not just about strategy, but also about adding a layer of complexity and excitement to the game. They can turn the tide in a match, making it unpredictable and thrilling. These special moves don't happen often, but they can really change the game. When they do occur, they often catch players off guard and can be the deciding factor in a closely contested match. Castling is a defensive move involving the king and one of the rooks. It's the only move in chess where you can move two pieces at once, which makes it unique and powerful. It helps keep the king safe by moving it to a more secure position, usually behind a wall of pawns. This can be crucial in the middle game when the king is vulnerable to attacks. The king moves two squares towards the rook and the rook jumps over the king to the square next to it. This maneuver not only safeguards the king, but also connects the rooks, allowing them to support each other. You can only castle if neither the king nor that rook has moved yet. There are no pieces between them and the king isn't in check, doesn't move through check or end up in check. This makes castling a move that requires careful planning and foresight. En passant, which means in passing in French, is a special way to capture a pawn. It's a rare move that can surprise your opponent and change the dynamics of the pawn structure. It can only happen right after your opponent moves their pawn two squares forward from its starting position. This move is designed to prevent players from bypassing a potential capture by moving their pawn two squares. If your pawn could have captured their pawn, if it had only moved one square, you can capture it en passant as if it had only moved one square. This adds a tactical element to pawn play, making it more intricate and engaging. Promotion happens when a pawn makes it all the way to the other side of the board. This is a significant achievement for a pawn, often transforming the game. It can then become any other piece of the same color, except a king. This flexibility allows players to choose the piece that best suits their strategy at that moment. Usually the pawn becomes a queen, the most powerful piece on the board. This can drastically alter the balance of power in the game. This can make a big difference, especially at the end of the game. Having an extra queen or another powerful piece can provide the leverage needed to secure a victory, making promotion a critical aspect of chess strategy. Our example game starts with the king's pawn opening, which is popular with new and experienced players. White goes first and moves their king's pawn two squares forward, e4. This controls the d5 and f5 squares and opens up space for white's bishops and queen. Black replies the same way, e5. This is common in openings, as both players try to stay even while moving their pieces. White then moves their king's knight to f3, f3. This controls the d4 square and gets ready to support a pawn move to e5. Black moves their queen's knight to c6, nc6. This defends the e5 pawn and gets ready to challenge white's control of d4. Now the battle for the center of the board has begun. Now, in the middle game, white and black start trying to trick each other, looking for weak spots and trying to get stronger. White moves their queen's bishop to c4, bc4. This puts pressure on black's f7 pawn, which is only protected by the king. Black defends by moving their queen's bishop to b4, BB4. This protects the f7 pawn and also pins white's knight on f3. If the knight moves, black can capture white's queen. White, still going for the f7 pawn, moves their queen to h5 for qh5. This threatens checkmate on f7 and makes black do something about it. Black moves their king's knight to f6 for enter f6. This stops the checkmate for now, but black's pieces are starting to get crowded. As the middle game becomes the endgame, the fight gets tougher. Often, both players have the same number of pieces left, so even small mistakes can matter a lot. White sees a chance to use black's crowded position against them and launches a big attack. White sacrifices their queen to make black's king come out into the open. Black takes the queen, but it's a trap. White has planned this and starts checking black's king over and over, trapping it. Checkmate. White wins by making a clever plan, using their pieces well and using black's weakness against them. This short game shows some important things about chess. From the beginning to the checkmate, each move shows how important it is to control the center, develop your pieces, use your opponent's weaknesses, and plan your attacks. This game is just the start of learning about chess. As you play more, you'll see different openings, middle game strategies, and end game techniques. Every game, win or lose, teaches you something new. Learning chess can seem hard at first, but even the best players were beginners once. The journey from novice to master is filled with challenges and learning opportunities. Every grandmaster started with the basics, just like you. One of the most important things is to control the center of the board. The central squares are crucial because they allow your pieces to have maximum mobility and influence. It's like the high ground on a battlefield. Holding the center gives you a strategic advantage, making it easier to launch attacks and defend against your opponent's moves. Controlling the center lets your pieces move more easily and do more. Your knights, bishops, and even your queen can dominate the board from these key positions. Try to control the center with your pawns and move your other pieces to squares where they can control the center. Pawns are the foot soldiers of your army, paving the way for your more powerful pieces. Moving your pieces out is also really important. Developing your pieces early in the game sets the stage for a strong middle game. They're like your army, and they need to be in good positions. Each piece has a role to play, and positioning them well can make all the difference. Don't leave them on their starting squares. Pieces that remain inactive are wasted potential. Move your knights and bishops before your queen, because the queen can be captured easily if you move her out too early. Knights and bishops are excellent for early control and defense. Chess isn't just about attacking, it's about defending too. A good defense can turn the tide of the game in your favor. Keep your pieces and your king safe. The king is the most important piece, and losing it means losing the game. Don't leave pieces where they can be captured. Every piece is important. Protecting your pieces while threatening your opponents is key to success. As you play more chess, you'll probably make some common mistakes. These mistakes are part of the learning process and can be corrected with practice and awareness. Knowing about these mistakes will help you improve. By recognizing them early, you can avoid falling into the same traps repeatedly. Don't move the same piece over and over again at the beginning of the game. This is a common error that many beginners make. This wastes time and lets your opponent develop their pieces better. Instead, focus on developing all your pieces efficiently. Also, don't forget about your king. The safety of your king is paramount in chess. Keeping your king safe is the most important thing. Always be mindful of potential threats to your king. Castling early is a good way to protect your king. This move not only safeguards your king, but also helps in developing your rook. Don't just try to capture pawns, especially if it means losing a bigger piece like a knight or bishop. Always consider the value of the pieces involved. It's usually better to develop your pieces and control important squares. Controlling the center of the board gives you a strategic advantage. Chess is about being patient and thinking carefully. Rushing your moves can lead to mistakes and missed opportunities. Don't move quickly without thinking. Each move should be deliberate and well considered. Take your time, look at the board, and try to guess what your opponent will do. Every move is important. By anticipating your opponent's strategy, you can plan your moves more effectively and stay ahead in the game. This is just the start of your chess journey. Like anything worth learning, chess takes time, practice, and learning from your mistakes. Don't worry if you lose, just try to learn from it. Look at your game, see what you did wrong, and find ways to get better. Join a chess club, play online, or play with friends and family. The more you play, the more you'll learn and the more fun you'll have. Chess is a journey, not a race. Enjoy the challenge, have fun, and keep exploring this amazing game.